Again, about half the questions are function, half the questions are parts. So a lot of questions will be just you have to answer them on a card. But on this one, I'll use different things. Like I might say, name the layer of the eyeball. The white, remember, is the sclera. This is the lacrimal gland, not an eye tumor like one student wrote down the test, but that's the lacrimal gland that produces the tears. Then all these as a group, remember, these are extrinsic muscles, all the red. You don't have to know the different extrinsic muscles. You just know them as a group. They're called extrinsic muscles. This is the cornea on the front. That's the clear protective covering over the pupil and the iris itself. But that's the cornea. The opening is the pupil. The colored part is the iris of the eye. And then the spot here at the back, that's the blind spot or optic disc. That would be where the actual optic nerve joined the retina. So there's no rod cells, no cone cells at that point. And that's why you call it the blind spot or optic disc. Now, just to open it up and show you inside, the middle layer in the brown right here is the choroid coat. It's sort of a brown little layer. That's pigmented layer. Iris is part of that layer, the choroid coat. The orange inside is the retina. So that's your innermost layer of the eyeball is the retina. And what we've done in these eye models is they've sort of divided it up. This is the lens. And the lens of the eye sits right up in this area here. The little tiny space between the cornea and the lens is the anterior cavity of the eye. About 5% of your eye is right where my finger is. And that is aqueous humor is what's in there. Real thin, almost like water is in that little area. Behind the lens, which this is also could be considered a lens. It's right here. This is the posterior cavity of the eye. About 95% of your eye is the posterior cavity. This contains vitreous humor. And vitreous means thick. This is very, very thick fluid compared to what's in the front of the eye. So that maintains the shape of most of the eyeball. And it fits right back here. So just to show you the difference here. So this would be posterior cavity. This is anterior cavity here. So the lens divides the two cavities. You're in front of the lens, you're anterior. Behind the lens, you're posterior. And the other thing it shows in here, we take this all apart here, is the little yellow area right here in the back. It looks like a little yellow dot back in here. That's the macula lutea, that little yellow area. And the macula lutea, the center of the macula lutea is called the fovea centralis. That's the center of it. But you can use either term you want. I don't care. But that's the area where cone cells are concentrated. So that's called your precision vision center. So right now, if you're looking at this, or you're writing, you're reading, your lens is focusing your light right at that little spot. Because cones, remember, are for day vision, precision vision, color vision, so forth. So your rod cells are more on the periphery out here. Because they're for night vision, peripheral vision, but cone cells are basically in that little tiny yellow area. And it actually looks yellow. If you took a picture inside the eye, it looks real pale yellow, but it's called the macula lutea. Lutea means yellow, and macula means large. It's for the eye, it's a large yellow, pale yellow area, and that's where cone cells are concentrated. So that's pretty much what I'd use that eye model for here, for those things I just showed you. And then, like I said, there'll be a lot of them with questions on cards, different things, but let's push this off the side a minute. The other eye model is this one again, and for this one, it shows a couple extra things. Again, these are extrinsic muscles here. These are your extrinsic muscles. The white in the center is the optic nerve. That is the actual optic nerve, the white structure in the middle. It's cut away here, the brown, that is the choroid coat. That's the middle layer of the eyeball. That's why they cut this off to show you what the middle layer looks like. That's choroid coat. And on the front, obviously the hole is the pupil. This is the iris. And the cornea is missing, but there will be a cornea clear covering over the outside, obviously. This is the lacrimal sac right here, that little structure. So let me tell you about the lacrimal apparatus, because I'll probably ask you this on cars. This is where tears are produced by the lacrimal gland. The tears flow across the eye. They flow from outermost to the inner corner of the eye. And then there's two little tiny ducts, and they're not on the models. They're called the superior and inferior canaliculi. That means small channels. They run from the corner of the eye to the lacrimal sac. So those canaliculi drain tears from the eye into the lacrimal sac. And then once you're in the sac, there's another duct. It's called the nasolacrimal duct, and it drains the tears from the sac into the nasal cavities. So when you're crying a lot, you get all stopped up, you start, like tears are in your nose, that's what's doing it. you're getting so many tears that sac is draining into the nasal cavity and starts plugging you all up. So you're blowing your nose, you're blowing tears out of your nose almost, so to speak. But that's the lacrimal apparatus.
So the superior and inferior canal use are lacrimal ducts.
Yeah, they basically drain tears from the eyes into the lacrimal sac. So lacrimal gland produces the tears. That's what the tear-producing structure
Do we need to
is.
identify it in the test?
Yeah, I might ask you what the tear-producing structure is, and you're going to put lacrimal gland if I ask you that. Or like sometimes I'll just put a sticker on this and say name the structure. That's the lacrimal gland. Or I put a sticker here and say name the structure here. That's the lacrimal sac. So there's two different structures. You can't see the canaliculi or nasal lacrimal duct, but I could ask you questions on those. I could say, what do you call the ducts that drain the tears into the lacrimal sac? Then you'd say superior, inferior canaliculi. So there's a lot of questions on the, about half the questions on the eyes and ears will be on the models, about half the questions on the eyes and ears will be on cards, and it'll be probably related to functions of stuff or where they're located or whatever. So that's pretty much it on the eyes. And I'll use both these eye models for that.